Today we're headed down to Lake Wateree to do some early spring pre-spawn cut bait striper fishing. In the springtime, I like to be out on the water before dawn so that I can get into the river section before they begin releasing water for power generation. Typically it's a little bit cooler in the springtime, so your best chance to get water released out of the dams will happen early in the morning up until about 10 or 11 o'clock. Now once I'm in the area, I usually cruise the bank, and I like to look for blow down trees or rock piles, anything that will give these stripers a place to duck in behind in the river current and ambush passing bait fish from. This is a great place to use your side imaging to pick out individual fish to anchor near. Now I'm using threadfin shad on this trip. I've got it cut up into basically 3 pieces, a head section, a middle section. If they're big enough, you can get a couple of middle pieces, and then the tail, which I discard. I'm not a big fan of using the tail for bait. Threadfin make excellent bait, and so do gizzard shad. Either one of those 2 fish will work great for catching stripers. Now when the water's on and the fish are in the river, it happens quickly. I've got 6 rods out, barely got them in the water, and I've got 1 hooked up, and if you look at that back corner rod, you can see it going over. These fish travel through in little small schools, and usually when you get one, you'll have another on fairly quickly. Now the rigs we're using are Carolina rigs, fish on the bottom with about a 3/4 to 1 ounce sinker, and they produce fish like this, which is your typical Lake Wateree striper. These fish seem to come through in schools. They're not very large schools like you would get on many lakes in the summertime, but it's not uncommon if you have 6 rods in the water in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, you can catch 5 or 6 fish. There are days when a 6-hour trip on this lake will produce 40 to 50 fish. That is not uncommon if you hit the right day, right water temperature, and you have current at the right time. This fish was a typical Lake Wateree striper. They don't get very big. Part of the reason is the limits on this lake. It's a very liberal limit with 10 fish and no minimum size. So this is definitely a put and take reservoir. Now the current here is not extremely swift, but a 3/4 ounce sinker is pretty much going to go where the water wants to take it. So if you want to pin some weights down on a specific ledge or near the bank, you're going to want to upgrade your sinker, and that's not a big deal. With a sinker slide, you can pin that bait where you want it. Now, this is a typical fish, another one. Getting some video of it here with my cell phone. I was actually live streaming this trip on Facebook that day, and that's why I'm actually doing the narration on this video. We have a lot going on, a lot different directions, trying to bring this information out to you guys so you can learn how to catch these fish, because it's a lot of fun. Now what would happen here is I would get a little break, sit down for 10 minutes or so, and then boom, it would light back up. There would be some fish move through, 2 or 3 rods would go down, and we'd put fish in the boat. And these were great fish, but they were also lucky fish because all of them were released alive on this trip. Now you can catch these fish when there's no current. There's many different ways you can do what I'm doing here and just anchor up in one place and fan cast out some rods. You can actually cover a lot better area when there is no current. Typically the bite's slower, but you can catch them. You can also pull umbrella rigs, Alabama rigs, and also do some live baiting. I've done that many times when I've gotten up there and no water is moving. I will bring live bait with me and put it on planer boards to get a good spread and put out free lines behind the boat. This water is relatively shallow. 8 to 12 feet is about the most water depth you're going to find in this part of the lake. So downlining is really not that effective for you. You're much better off with free lines behind planer boards, and also pull on Alabama rigs and umbrella rigs. All of these methods will produce fish when you don't have current up in the river. It's a gamble. There's no release schedule, so it's just a roll of the dice if water's moving. Here's another good lake water restriper. One thing to kind of help you figure out if water's moving: the colder the morning, when it gets into the 30s and 40s, you got a lot better chance of them releasing water. A little note on tackle: I'm using a 1/0 Gamakatsu octopus circle hook, Andy clear monofilament line and leader, 15 pounds, and I've got a swivel that ties the leader to the main line. These lighter lines are perfect for these smaller stripers. The lighter leader material really comes in handy when you're fishing with live bait because it frees up the bait to swim around more freely. For cut bait, it really doesn't matter. These stripers just want to eat. One note in closing, these fish are caught early in the spring making a spawning run. They run upriver, they go through the spawning process, laying eggs. Eggs are fertilized, but the eggs never really hatch. There's not enough of a river section for the eggs to tumble like they do in the waters where they do reproduce, so it's really a false run. It's the easiest time in the world to catch stripers. It's striper fishing for dummies, and that's why I'm able to catch so many of them. So if you have a chance, get out this spring and enjoy chasing these wonderful fish.